Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nimhauser. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, all the places pretty much, YouTube at Hawk Blogger. And on Tuesdays, at least so far this season, we've been blessed by the company of Matt Hasselbeck. And it's become kind of a Hasselbeck Tuesday. Today, it's a triple pod Tuesday because, my goodness, there's so much going on. We got to cover it every single way. So we're starting out with Matt here. We'll talk to Annabelle and Mike Dugar and Rob Staten at 5 on the Seahawks Collective. And then 7 o'clock tonight, Real Hawk Talk is moving to Tuesday tonight this week because of the Thursday game. Tuesday at 7 p.m. with Evan Hill and Jeff Simmons. So lots to talk to you guys about today. But let's start with our pal, Matt Hasselbeck.
Dude, that's a lot. Hey, that's a lot, Brian. I mean, you're everywhere. And you're on TikTok. Shoot, I'm going to have to look that up.
Let's go. My dances are just getting on point. So yeah, give me a little bit. And I'll get it.
We had a big win Friday night, and we all celebrated in Nashville at Waldo's Chicken and Beer. It was like the Peach Pit for anybody that's like my age, and it was like 70 people in this restaurant. There was not room for everyone, but all the kids were out in the parking lot in different groups doing TikTok videos. So it was just like it was hilarious. Usually, it's like,
did you join? Did you join any of these?
No. That's not my role. I'm like Hitch. I stay right here. I stay right here.
Well, speaking of age, let's wish you an early happy birthday.
Let's not.
You're turning the big 5-0, man. You're joining the club, yeah?
It's amazing. Yeah. Thursday night, get to celebrate by we'll have practice. Then I'll watch the Seahawks play against the Cardinals on Thursday night. Amazon should be fun. 50. It's crazy. I'm in a little bit of denial right now. We scored 49 points in our last game, and everyone's like, let's get to 50. And I was like, let's stay at 49. We're good. We don't need to kick.
As somebody who just crossed that threshold, I feel you, man. I hope your pals get you some Depends or whatever works to celebrate the moment.
They need to give me some dumbbells, but okay. Anyway.
That too. So Matt, we were talking before we got started. You said you guys had a big win on Friday night and kind of a blowout victory. Seahawks had one of those too. And I'm curious, like both as a player and now as a coach, what do you take from that? Obviously it feels good, but how do you evaluate what you did versus what the other team didn't?
No, it's you celebrate it. You celebrate it all the way. Like you work so hard, you're looking for things to click. And obviously in 3 phases, it's rare that it clicks in all 3 phases the way that it did for the Seahawks. It's almost just like you almost feel guilty. It almost takes you out of a rhythm in a sense as an offense. I think Sam Darnold might have had 2 touchdown passes because like they were scoring in other ways. It's kind of like, oh, okay. I remember playing in a game and I think we had maybe Nate Burleson or Peter Warwick or one of those guys as our return guy. And they had a really good day and they kept returning it or something. It was kind of like, oh, our defense was scoring. Like, man, it's been a while since I've been on the field. But no, you celebrate it. I think maybe I just think more like a coach now. But at some point, you think really quickly, hey, let's get these guys out of the game, especially for the Seahawks. You play a Thursday night game. It's a short week. Your opponent's been done for a few hours already. They're already getting rested up. Let's just stay healthy and make sure we're ready for the next one. This one, the goal here is to go 1-0 this week. We went 1-0. Let's get some other people in the game. Let's not get any injuries. And I think that's kind of the mindset. But no, you absolutely celebrate it. I think if anything, you just want to keep the momentum rolling.
Well, you talked about the benefit of being able to get guys out. You played in some Thursday night games. Like it was relatively new toward the tail end of your career. But how tough is it to go from a Sunday to a Thursday and play competent football?
I actually loved it. I thought Thursday nights was the best. You get this like mini bye week. So you feel, you're going to feel better for the next week. Like, you're going to feel pretty great. The other thing is you're not in pads the whole week. Like you're not in pads Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's no hitting. You're not going to touch another soul. So like I understand and I respect the fact that the perspective from a quarterback is going to be different from an offensive lineman or whatever. But at the same time, we would not be in pads and we wouldn't go. And then my favorite thing, and I think this showed up for the Seahawks, is that that the defense that you're going up against doesn't have enough time to invent new schemes for you and practice them and feel good about them. So what you're going to see in the game is what you've already probably seen on film. And I always liked, being able to play fast and maybe, as an offense, you can do a little shift here, a motion there, and 11 guys on defense have to think differently, and only really one guy on offense has to think differently. And, I like Thursday night games for that reason. I get to use my tempo. I get to go quick and get to play fast because everyone knows what they're doing.
That's interesting. And I'm curious if the other position groups would have a similar take, as you kind of said. What is the relationship like between quarterback and other position groups? Like, do you mix with the offensive linemen more, with the running backs, the receivers? Like, are you just, are you guys off on your own?
I definitely was with the offensive line a lot. Like that was probably my pregame meal Saturday night crew. I gave them their sacred space. Like they would eat their dinner together, but I would always join them for dessert, at the hotel the night before. But no, I would say probably very close to the wide receiver group, tight end group. Running backs, I would say they're in their own little world where they're a lot with the offensive line. And they get kind of the scraps in the passing game. That's why I think the best passing games use the running backs because they can easily become an afterthought if you're not careful. Some of the worst passing attacks, they say to the running back, "Hey, stay in and make sure no one needs help in the pass pro." But some of the best use the running back in a lot of different creative ways in the passing game. So no, I think probably just going back to the Thursday night thing. You kind of joke with those guys. Like I remember the offensive line when I was a captain, they'd always be like, "Hey, are we in pads today? Can you go talk to the coach if we're in pads, if we're in uppers, if we're in shells, like what's the dress of the day?" And like, as a joke, I'd kind of be like, "Yeah, what does it really matter? Like, what's the difference?" Like, I don't notice the difference, but to them, it's like, it changes the world. Like, do I have to get taped today? Do I have to wear knee braces today? Am I going to get, what's my day going to be like? It's tough. But so, again, I think I definitely have a different perspective on the Thursday night thing. But my thing was like, hey, I'm going up against Dick LeBeau tonight. I'm going up against Monty Kiffin. I'm going up against whoever the guys are I'm going up against. I know what they've done in the last 10 years as a D coordinator. I know what they're not going to spring on us schematically. Now, I get that that's different of like, hey, I got to learn this guy's pass rush moves or whatever. I understand that that's different.
So I'm curious, obviously you watched the game and you watch all the games. What did you take away from that Seahawks game? What stood out to you?
Well, it was everything that they said they wanted. I really just think like week one was a swing and a miss, identity-wise. And sometimes that happens when you play someone that has your playbook. You're like, oh, they know that we're going to have a fullback and be under center and we're going to shift in motion. So like, let's not do that. And then you get at it, it kind of messes you up. I thought it was a great game plan. They did whatever they wanted. It was more under center. It was shifts. It was motions. It was under center. It was play action. It was move the pocket. It was like those 5 things. And sure, they sprinkled in like the shotgun game and all that stuff, but like really it was the other stuff. And, I think even if you just look at all their successful first downs, there was a shift and there was a motion. Shift in motion, by the way, like a motion is when everybody's set and then you send one guy in motion and set up, we snap the ball. A shift would be we line up in a formation, they set the strength, they set their rule, and then you say, oh, no, we're going to put the tight end on the other side. Or no, the strength of our formation is actually on the other side. So now they're on to plan B. And then maybe we even do a motion. And now they're on to plan C as a defense. And really nothing changed for us. We just sort of broke the huddle slower as a mindset. And that's where you saw a lot of the big plays come on the, especially in the passing game for us getting first downs.
I've always been curious, and I know a lot of fans have as well, just kind of the anatomy of what's going on for a quarterback from the point where you call the play in the huddle to the point where the ball snapped. Because it feels like a lot of people probably just think it's, you get up there and you snap the ball, but it feels like there's a bunch that goes on between that point and the ball snap.
Yeah, you gotta try to simplify it for you as quickly as you can. And I don't know if people know, but like the coach to quarterback communication system, the coach can talk as soon as the play ends. The next play begins. The coach can talk to you in the helmet. You can't talk back. It's probably a great thing, but like they can talk to you, and they can talk to you until there's 15 seconds on the play clock. And ironically, that was always the time where I felt like I had to be out of the huddle by 15. Like if we're not out of the huddle by 15 seconds, we got a problem. And all those shifts in motions that I'm talking about, like we had a word, I forget the word right now, but it basically was like, hey, just line up in it. Just get to where you would have ended up at the snap. But I always took pride in not being close to a delay game. That was one of the things I took pride in. And one of the reasons was that, our center, Robbie Tobeck, he liked to go quick. He felt like, hey, we're in better shape than the defensive line we're playing against. I like when those guys have their hand on their hips, they're breathing heavy, like they'll tap out of the game, they'll look for a sub, that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, there's a little bit of a checklist as a quarterback when you do break the huddle.
What is that? What's on that checklist? You checking who the mic is? Like what's kind of like?
Yeah. So I try to think of it as like, what am I not concerned with? Instead of like, what am I worried about? Or like, what do I need to know? Like I think about what do I not need to know? So if I'm up there, I'm calling the play, eye contact in the huddle, I'm calling the play, and then I'm looking up at the play clock. You get to know every stadium. Obviously, I know our home stadium. And as long as I'm before 15 seconds, I'm good. I'm not even really worried about that clock. So I'm checking that, ready, break, here we go. The first thing I do, the absolute first thing I do is I check to see, are they in a 3-down or a 4-down front? A lot of times your veteran center will help you with that real quick. He'll give a hand signal or a word. He'll say 3-down, 4-down, odd jam. Like there's verbiage there, but it's almost like an afterthought. It's almost just like an afterthought. Then I find who the middle linebacker is. And usually, like if we're being real, it's the same guy every play. I mean, I used to joke. We played the Chicago Bears, and Brian Urlacher was the Mike every single play. Mike means the middle linebacker. I would be like, all right, here we go, guys. We got I write 93 blast on one, ready, break. 54 is the Mike. Like we wouldn't even be at the line of scrimmage. It was just like, why do we even have to say it? So a lot of times we wouldn't even say it if like we already knew. But the key guy for me is just the free safety. If you're going to look at one player as a quarterback, it's always the free safety. He doesn't necessarily tell you what the coverage is, but from my perspective, he always tells you what the coverage isn't. And I think if there was one thing that I could say to a young quarterback about every single play, I would write this down. I would say, know what your problem is. And for every single play, like there is a kryptonite. There is one thing that would be a problem. And that's your job. Like that's really your job. And it's your job to worry about that. It's your job to have an answer for that. Other than that, it's pretty much like, hey, let's, everything's built in. We can just go, we can call it and run it. Or, the check with me system is a lot more popular right now. And we can try to get ourselves into our favorite play. But, just keeping our guys away, keeping our plays away from that kryptonite, I think is job number one.
How long in your career, like how big of a difference would you say there was in Matt Hasselbeck's first start doing that in the NFL and, later on in your career? How much of a growth was there in that portion of the game?
I think for me, and maybe it's unique, like part of my problem was that I was so frustrated with the training wheels that were on me early on when I got to Seattle because they weren't on me in Green Bay. Because it was like the Brett Favre show, and then whoever replaced him just had to we can't miss a beat. And so I was frustrated with basically the learning progression, and that was a thing. And it was the better thing, just like parenting. Your kids are like, oh, why can't I? My friends are doing this, and you're, as parents, you're kind of like, well, because you have to earn my trust, and I'm protecting you. I'm protecting everybody. I'm protecting the family, really. And so that can be a frustrating thing. But no, I felt like I had to learn that stuff early on. There's a difference, though, between learning it and getting us all into the right play and then playing your best. And there was a moment where Rich Gannon was the year that Rich Gannon was the MVP. I think he was playing for the Raiders. He was the league MVP, had this amazing year. And I remember studying the film, we were watching him play. And he did this, he saw this crazy blitz that Chicago was bringing. He got everyone into the right protection, did all the stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I don't know if I could ever play quarterback. That was so amazing how he got them all into the perfect protection. And then he drops back to throw a very simple pass, and he bounces it to the receiver. Now, this is the year that he's the MVP.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was Jim Zorn. I think it was Jim Zorn is the quarterback coach. He was like, hey guys, this is a great example. One of the game's best quarterbacks right now did all the protection stuff, got all into the right play. And then he kind of relaxes a little bit, just like, did it. And then he forgot to execute the play. That was me. Like that early on, that was me. I could do all the stuff. I was sort of trained to do it. And then my play suffered a little bit because it was almost like the laser focus wasn't there. And I think a guy like Mike Holmgren, who's sort of been there and done it with Joe Montana and Steve Young and Brett Favre, he understood like, hey, you think you're there, you're not there, And so, those were some of the issues as you're flying the 747, so to speak, as a quarterback.
Well, part of the reason I'm asking you all this, Matt, besides personally being interested, is Sam Darnold is a guy that's obviously gone through quite the career progression and is off to what seems to be an excellent start. He's, by all sorts of different measures, one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL through 3 weeks. What are you seeing from him?
Well, that's exactly what I would say about him right now, is that he's playing such great football and he's playing within kind of like that first and second down offense, if you will. Under center, shifts, motions, play actions, move the pocket. It's not that it's easier, but it's like it's the foundational pieces. And it's not necessarily kind of like what I see Aaron Rodgers doing lately, the last 2 years, or really maybe the last 5 years. He just sits there and shotgun. He goes through his like triple cadence. He tells this guy what to do, that guy what to do. And then he just plays like NBA hero ball. You can do that. It's a little more difficult, I think. I think there's more consistency in what the Seahawks have kind of designed foundationally around Sam Darnold, where he can be one of the game's best quarterbacks if you have that balance, if you have that structure. And it all, to me, all stems with pass protection. And a great way to get a guy on defense not to give you his best pass rush is if he doesn't know it's a pass. And I think the Seahawks have done a great job. And the other thing that I think they've done a nice job with his mobility, which he doesn't get enough credit for, they're moving the pocket a little bit. Like I think I mentioned to you before, a lot of quarterbacks, they're on a spot 7.5 or 9.5 yards behind the center almost every play. And that's really not what it's been for Sam. Even if you would just look at just his touchdown passes this year, he's not at that spot. It's changed the launch point. And a lot of play callers, at least when I was playing, they would say, hey, we need to change the launch point at least once a quarter. So 4 times a game. That's nothing these days. That's nothing. These pass rushers are so good. You got to change the launch point more than that by design. The Seahawks have done a great job of that so far. I think it's one of the things that Sam's so good at.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, like, from a defensive standpoint, you hear people all the time saying if we can just get the quarterback off his spot, even 2 steps, he's not used to throwing the same route at the same timing from that spot. And yet offenses, in some of these cases, are actually intentionally moving that launch point. How is it like?
Well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. His spot, like we know where the spot. So like with certain play actions, a lot of times, like, you talk about the relationship between the O-line and the quarterback. Those guys would say to me like, hey, where are you letting this one go from? And I'd say, oh, the weak side B gap, the strong side A gap. Oh, I'm outside the tackle on this one. And it's like, okay, because they don't have eyes in the back of their head. The most frustrating thing for an offensive lineman is when they're blocked their guy perfectly and you scramble out of the pocket and it causes a sack. That is like infuriating to the morale of the offensive line. It's infuriating, and like, even like Lamar last night, like they lost the game. He was sacked 7 times. It's frustrating for an O-line. When I was playing, Michael Vick was the Lamar Jackson of the day. He was the most exciting player to watch. He was always sacked more than I was, always. So like there's a balance there. And so like I think having a little bit of structure with where that spot is for the offensive line equals more winning football. And, obviously you can't just be as versatile and as amazing as Lamar, but like Sam Darnold's pretty good in the pocket. Like I don't think he gets credit for his escapability or his throwing on the run. So like if they can just do it within the design of the play, in terms of like moving the spot, moving the target, moving the launch point, that's really, really hard on the defense. And all the while, every defense is going to say it starts with stopping the run first. So they can't get, that's a foundational piece for our defense. So they have to honor that, then go rally to the pass pro. And now you're giving guys like JSN time to literally run from like one side of the field to the other. That's really, really hard to defend.
Well, and to your point, I mean, one of the things that Sam Darnold's been criticized for and is stuck with him through his career is, he can't handle pressure when he's under, not the pressure at the end of the game, which is a separate thing, but the actual pass pressure. Back-to-back weeks, we've seen him in Pittsburgh. There's an unblocked rusher. He spins out of it, goes to his left, and lofts a perfect pass to AJ Barner on third down that ended up keying the game clinching drive. This week, again, first drive, unblocked rusher up the middle, which they got to figure that part out, by the way. He escapes that and again gathers himself and lofts a perfectly placed ball to JSN on a scramble drill. How do you assess how he's performing in those situations, and how hard is it to calm your heartbeat in that moment to actually put touch on the pass and not just get out of the pressure?
Yeah, I don't think that's the hard part. I mean, that's what you've done your whole life as a kid. If you play quarterback, you've done that part. You've practiced that part. It's like shooting a fadeaway three at the buzzer in your driveway. Like we all did it. And if you missed, it was halftime. That's not the. I think the hard part is keeping your eyes downfield, avoiding the rush, and then doing it with two hands on the ball. A lot of quarterbacks think that interceptions are my fault, but fumbles aren't really my fault. Like. No, actually, fumbles are worse for a quarterback than interceptions. Like an interception happens way down there, field position. Okay. It's like a really, really bad punt. A fumble, they get the ball on our side of the line of scrimmage. Like that's like the kiss of death. And I think that Sam, at least in this last game, mentioning the play that you're mentioning where the guy comes right up the middle and he's got two hands on the ball. He protects the ball, gets out of the pocket, obviously eyes downfield. But if you look around the league, there were teams that lost games, quarterbacks who played good football, but they fumbled the ball in the pocket. That's how you lose games. I'm thinking of Drake May. Drake May had a really good play, a really good day, but the fumble that he had was a backbreaker. And, I listening to Mike Vrabel evaluate that. Everyone's saying, Drake May played so great. He played so great. And Mike Vrabel's like, yeah, there was some good, there was some bad. And then there's the stuff that gets you beat. And that's the stuff that gets you beat. And ultimately, I think what Sam Darnold has done a nice job of, especially this last week, is kind of avoiding the stuff that'll get you beat. And for me, when you talk about that in the pocket and all that stuff, rule number one, like if you take a sack, like you let our punter punt, you let our field goal kicker kick, but you cannot give up that football. Like that's just like, can't do it. Can't do it. Now, what he's done a good job of, I think, especially in this last game, is that he protected the ball, had his eyes downfield, and turned it into a positive play for the Seahawks. And not as a runner, but just as like an escaper with eyes downfield, which is, it's backbreaking for a defense. Like it's super demoralizing.
Let's switch sides and talk about the Seahawks defense and what Mike McDonald's got going on that side. They played without their starting safety and Julian Love. They played without Devin Witherspoon, one of their best defensive players. Nicky Manwari, the safety, still has not played. And
it's hard to notice.
It's pretty good. What are you seeing from that side of the ball?
Well, it's just great because think about like that's like one of the hard things as a quarterback when you're studying a defense. Like you get all these stats and analytics and it's just like, they're a nickel. Like, okay, well, is it little nickel? Is it big nickel? Is it dime? Like, like I remember when Pete Carroll first came in and our defense, it was like, we had like nickel, dime. They had another package called Ruby, but like sometimes it was Earl Thomas and sometimes it was Lawyer Malloy. Two guys that couldn't be different, like more different skill set wise. Like Lawyer was savvy, a hard-nosed tackler, like knew everything. Earl was like just like a puppy. Like you're like, dude, you're supposed to be in the middle. You're over here. Like I know you got the interception, but wait, what? How did you? What just happened there? Fast. Probably played corner in college. We had Cam Chancellor, who developed into one of the game's all-time great safeties. But at the time, he was kind of like learning the position. Like didn't have the body type of anybody else at that position. But like we just said, it's just nickel. It's like, no, it's very, very different for a quarterback. And I think that's one of the things that the Seahawks going forward are going to have when they get everybody healthy. They're going to have so much versatility, so much creativity, where as an offense, you go in to play them and you just say like, it's dime. Like, well, what version of dime? What version of like which 11 are on the field? And, I don't know. I don't like, as a quarterback, I don't like doing that. I like just knowing who the guys are and let me have a full week to just study them. Like just know everything there is to know about them. You start moving everybody around and now I'm just sort of guessing. It's a little bit harder to game plan for.
Well, so the Seahawks are going to have a game in just a couple days, and they're playing against the Arizona Cardinals. I'm kind of curious your perspective on that Arizona team, as well as like Kyler Murray as a quarterback.
Well, he's, obviously super talented, right? Like he's super talented. And I don't
No
think
doubt.
people love to play him, especially early in the year. I feel like this is a team that always starts out pretty hot. And then they fall off, they just do. And I that's where I think like some of the things that truly, truly matter and ways to win consistently in the NFL for like 20 weeks. We haven't seen that from that team. We just haven't seen that from that team. So, not a team you want to play early usually, but a team you usually don't mind playing late. This will be a tough one though. And they're a wounded animal a little bit, like they lost James Conner and like you can see like the, just the devastation that causes, not only for him personally, but also like a leader, kind of, the physical guy, the physical runner for that team. And, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not having the kind of year that like I think he's expected to have and that kind of stuff. But no, I do believe that the schedule sets up pretty nicely for the Seahawks. I think this is a game that they can take care of business. And, like I said, the short week, it's all going to be about like that rush lane discipline with Kyler and keeping him frustrated. He's not a bigger guy. And you see that show up. Like you saw that show up in the 49er game that he played. When guys are in his lap, he's not even close to the same quarterback. And I'm not one that says like, oh, you got to be 6'5" to play quarterback in the NFL, but it does show up a little bit for him. And so if you can keep him in the pocket and use the techniques, get your hands up, all the kind of stuff that the details that great defensive coaches can coach, it's, I think this is a winnable game for us.
Well, you mentioned Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, one of the most highly touted wide receiver prospects ever. And he had some just bad drops against the 49ers, multiple. The one that everyone's seeing is down the field, but he had another one in the end zone that he should have caught. And I'm curious, how you handled those kinds of situations when one of your guys, made some pretty bad drops. What was the conversation outside of the game, during the game? How did that go?
Yeah, well, I mean, drops, it's not the same for everybody, but like, some guys have, everyone's going to have drops from here, from time to time, here and there. But I always felt like as a quarterback, when I would see my guys like really working at it before practice, during practice, after practice, like it bothered them, I was good with it. I didn't lose my confidence in them at all. In fact, if they ever dropped the ball, I was trying to go back to them right away, especially a great player. It may be different if the guy, was somewhere in his career, maybe young or immature, or just didn't have the same care factor. Like if it wasn't crushing him, but I think keeping a guy's confidence is one thing. But I would say just from some of the better receivers that I ever played with, I would say like Bobby Ingram would be an example of a guy where he would kind of explain to me like, hey, it helps wide receivers if we can feel part of the game, if we can feel it like we're in the rhythm. And so getting those touches early, getting them maybe even often, just helps certain guys like who are used to being the star receiver wherever they came from, in this case, Ohio State. They're used to being involved in the game. They feel like they're in a rhythm. They're in a zone, kind of like someone at the driving range or batting practice or shooting free throws. Like all of a sudden, like, yeah, I can shoot it from anywhere right now, as opposed to the guy that like doesn't get a target in the first half or doesn't get a target in the first quarter. And then all of a sudden you're expecting to make it like this miraculous catch. Like, it's just he's out of sync. He's out of his flow. So, I think the Philadelphia Eagles would be an example of a team that they've got a marquee, wide receiver one type guy in AJ Brown. They ignored him in the first half of their last game, and they came in at halftime and they said, "Okay, you know what? We forgot, or this kind of got slipped our minds, but we need to get him his touches." And he made contested catch after contested catch and really put the team on his back and was a difference maker and unlocked the whole offense. That's what That's what I believe Arizona is going to try to do. They're going to like kind of look at, oh, shoot, why is this not working for us? We got to get him involved early, often, so he can be a huge part of our solution for our offense to score more points.
Matt, you're with us this season, benefiting Team Impact. So tell folks a little bit about Team Impact that don't know about it.
Yeah, Team Impact's an awesome organization. Basically, they pair. I wish I could say this like the right way, but they pair kind of similar to what I experienced in my career with like a Make-A-Wish Foundation, like a kid going through something really tough and a family going through something really tough, where they would come by for the day and sort of spend the day as one of your teammates. What Team Impact does is they sort of draft you. As for college athletes, they draft you onto their team, and you're literally their teammate for the season or multiple seasons. And so I've just seen it in action, how it's worked so great for these families who are going through something very, very difficult. But it's also been great for the student athletes. And it's on a lot of college campuses right now. And I think it's a wonderful thing. So I'm just kind of helping them expand their influence and their reach and their impact on so many. So excited to basically support them with these appearances here with you.
Man, it's great. Good luck to you this week, and have a awesome birthday. 50, it's not easy to get there. So enjoy it. Enjoy it with people you love.
Don't tell anybody. Let's just get the win Thursday.
All right. That's Matt Hasselbeck, one of the best to ever do it for the Seahawks. Take care, Matt.
See it.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, 50's not easy. I'll tell you that much. In our house, for some reason, back scratchers have become a thing. Like my wife and I need back scratchers all the time. I don't know when I started having an itchy back, but you get old and weird things start to happen. If you haven't figured out, I'm going to be going to Phoenix tomorrow, and you still can too. I'm sure you can find a way to get there, and there's going to be tickets available for this game. And just in time, there's a great way for you to get tickets for this game. Check it out. We're headed towards fall, so I'd love to find some indoor events to attend with my family, which is why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and a bunch more. The NFL is officially back, MLB playoffs are around the corner, and the NBA not too far behind. SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Those are the best. Red, not quite as good. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And you know what? It doesn't really matter if you are a Dua Lipa fan or a Benson Boone guy, or who knows, maybe you're a Tate McRae person, but there are great concerts coming your way. Find them on SeatGeek. And I have a code for you guys. You can use code HawkBlogger10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code HawkBlogger10. Make sure you click on the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thanks, SeatGeek. Awesome deal. All right, folks. I hope to see you in Phoenix Glendale, technically, for the game. It's a big one. I've been doing some early work for Tail of the Tape. Man, it is a super compacted week, and trying to fit everything in is going to be tough, but this is a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup. I on one hand, I look at the Cardinals that have basically built their offense to be run centric, to be a power, largely gap scheme run game with James Conner as the hammer, and say, well, they lost James Conner, who for my money was like the heartbeat of that offense. And I've talked to guys in the Cardinals organization who agreed with that, like as recently as last year, that's the guy that everyone turns to, and he was the leader. And like, okay, so if I told you that the Arizona run offense was already the 30th ranked run offense in DVOA, and now they've lost James Conner, and there's at least some question mark whether Paris Johnson Jr., their left tackle, who's their best offensive lineman, will play. He did not play against the 49ers. It's questionable about whether he'll play this week. you kind of look at that. Kyler Murray's not playing well. The receivers aren't playing well. Zay Jones, one of their starting receivers, on the last play of the game, got a concussion. So that's going to be questionable for him to make it back for this game. They're missing a bunch of cornerbacks. There's all sorts of things that are like, man, the Seahawks should win this game. And I think the Seahawks should win this game. The Cardinals are still favored. At least last time I checked, that was this morning. And the Cardinals defense is legit. It is legit. The defensive line is playing really well. They're defending the run really well. Mac Wilson, the linebacker, had a really nice game against the 49ers, made a bunch of plays. They're rushing the passer better than they were. I think the corners that they have in there are playing better than probably people would expect, even though they're missing their two best corners in Garrett Williams, who's out for the year, and Will Johnson, who was their rookie pick, who really started off strong, missed the game against the 49ers. Questionable about whether he's going to get back for this one. I just don't love the feel of like kind of this expectation. I think Cardinals fans are expecting the Seahawks to win this game. I think Seahawks fans are expecting Seahawks to win this game. And just, if nothing else, just the vibes of it give me a little bit of pause. Like, it's a division game. Yes, you swept them last year. They are not going to want to go 0-2 in the division any more than the Seahawks are going to want that. They're not going to want to lose that game at home. They know all the things. I think they're going to come out and give the Seahawks their absolute best. And generally speaking, it is hard for the road team to win on a Thursday night. It just, historically, it is not easy to do. So yeah, I'm a little concerned about this one. I mean, it's an absolute. It's not quite a must win in my mind, but it's incredibly important to both teams. But from a Seahawks perspective, you got to find a way. You got to find a way to come out of there with this one. I think the Seahawks have the better quarterback. I think the Seahawks have the better coach. I think the Seahawks have the more well-rounded all-around team. And they've played well there. They have played well there in for a long time. So, we'll see. We will see. I will give you a full tail of the tape breakdown tomorrow. We will be joined by Bo Brack of Phoenix Sports. And so Bo is with us for the season preview. We talk Cardinals. I'm going to go on his show today, and then he's coming on my show tomorrow. So because I'll be traveling in the morning tomorrow, we'll probably do an afternoon show, probably around 3:00 Pacific time is roughly where I'm guessing. But the best way to keep track of that is to like, subscribe, click the bell to get notified when we are going live over here. And as I said, we've moved Real Hawk Talk from Wednesday this week to Tuesday to tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific. So I will be with you with Evan Hill and Jeff Simmons. And it's going to be a little weird because I'm used to doing my predictions after I've done all my tail of the tape research and written the article. It's going to be a little in reverse. So maybe I may take the liberty to change my prediction Wednesday, but at least for tonight, we'll go through that and talk about it. So as far as Seahawks news, just worth touching on that. It's not a lot to say there, but there's a couple things that are worth, at least if you didn't pay attention, you might want to know about. So Damian Martinez, Seahawks 7th round pick, running back out of Miami, formerly of Oregon State, was a guy that a lot of us were very excited about as a potential steal in the later part of the draft. He did not have a great training camp, did not have a great preseason. And in fact, he was outperformed not only by George Halani, but also by Jacardier Wright, the other undrafted rookie running back. Well, the Seahawks did release him when they did their initial cut to 53. They did sign him back to the practice squad. There's been kind of on again, off again with that. But as of last week, they released him, and it seems like that tie has been severed. He is trying out for the Colts. The Seahawks are reported to be signing Khalil Herbert, a running back that most recently I think played for the Bears. I think he was with maybe I can't remember where he was trying out this year and didn't stick with the team. But in any event, that implies the Seahawks are moving on from Damian Martinez. That'll be the first of all the draft picks that they took that is no longer associated with the team. And my take on this generally is, you know what? Like, I was super high on him. He was not the best back, like even just as a runner in the chances he was given. And ultimately, results have to matter, even if I think there's a high chance that Damian Martinez will be one of those guys where you're like, man, he turned out to be pretty good. Maybe he'll be having Alex Collins like, resurgence, or, Justin Forsett and, some of the guys that went on to have some good fortune other places. But I understand why the Seahawks made the move they made. The other thing I would say is that we got the injury report yesterday for the Seahawks, and they don't actually practice. So it's an estimate, and you don't really know what that means in terms of their availability for Thursday. But here is where we were. Elijah Arroyo shows up with a groin injury as limited. I have not seen that he's had a groin injury in the past. I'll have to go back and look. Maybe I've not paid attention closely, but that might be a new one. Zach Charbonnet was listed as a full participant. We know from Bob Condotta that Charbonnet went through a pretty heavy workout before the game on Sunday. So I think he seems good to go, maybe. And remember, Zach Charbonnet had a pretty big game against the Cardinals last year in Arizona. I'd also say that was a very different blocking scheme. A lot of the runs that Zach Charbonnet was breaking were gap scheme, duo style runs. Seahawks don't do those quite as much as they did last year. And when they do, they haven't been as good on those types of plays, but still good to have as many guys back as possible. Nicky Manwari and Devin Witherspoon were listed as limited. And there was a little bit of, teasing with Nicky Manwari, I think on Twitter, saying something along the lines of, I think someone wrote like reinforcements are coming with a picture of Nick and Devin, and Nick kind of responded to it, maybe indicating that it's going to happen. I don't know. I think we'll just see. I think there's a decent chance that those guys come back, but it's a Thursday game and there's not a lot of practice between now and then. Ernest Jones has a shoulder still from last week. Same thing. He was a full participant. Again, this is all estimates. Josh Jones, a new injury, as well as Robbie Oots, a new injury. So Josh Jones, not Josh Jobe, Josh Jones, the tackle, the backup tackle who came in for Charles Cross. He has what's listed as an ankle injury and was listed as a did not participate. So was Robbie Oots, listed as an ankle and listed as did not participate. Don't know the extent of Robbie Oots's situation, and if he doesn't play, Brady Russell would be the fullback. That's a pretty different style of fullback than Robbie Oots, but we'll see how that goes. Then you've got Julian Love and Boye Mafe and Jalen Sundell and Leonard Williams all as limited participants. Leonard Williams with an elbow and a shoulder, Jalen Sundell with an ankle and an elbow, Boye Mafe with a toe, Julian Love with that hamstring. So it's gone from hamstring to groin back to hamstring with Julian Love, all limited. We'll see where that ends up. For the Cardinals, one of the things to kind of keep an eye on there is their offensive line. So I told you about Paris Johnson and that he didn't play against the 49ers. He's still limited, listed as limited. Then you've got Evan Brown, their guard, which the Seahawks are familiar with. He's listed as limited with an ankle. Kelvin Beachum, who replaced Paris Johnson, he did not participate. And it says not injury related, resting player, which is weird to designate for a day you didn't practice, but okay. But it does say he has a knee issue as well. So we'll see what's going on with the offensive line. And then you've got Will Johnson, who was a DNP, did not participate with the groin, and Zay Jones, the concussion, the wide receiver. So fair number of injuries listed. I think they get a little bit generous with, or conservative, depending on your way you want to describe it, with their injury designations on days that they don't practice. But yeah, that's kind of where things stand on the injury front. There are. Oh, it's interesting. I do see now. So Khalil Herbert was with the Colts, and now he's coming to Seattle. All right. I think that'll do it. I mean, oh, my goodness. I forgot. Nick Bosa. That seems like a pretty big deal. We should talk about that for a second. So yeah, the news came out yesterday that the 49ers lost Nick Bosa for the season with an ACL injury. This was after Kyle Shanahan said that it wasn't going to be an ACL, or they think they got away with it not being an ACL. So really, really big loss for the 49ers. And this is a team that's been just decimated by injuries, and they're going to get some of these guys back. But at the same time, this is kind of the state of what that team is and why it's a hard team to get too worried about or excited about, because who of these guys are going to be available for them throughout the year? Right now, Christian McCaffrey is being utilized at a rate higher than any other player in the NFL. Is that going to be a good idea in a few weeks? Like, is that going to hold up okay? And even though he's getting utilized, he's actually not being very effective for the most part. Trent Williams, like there's a lot of guys that you just wonder how that's going to go for the year. I would watch the 49ers in the trade market. I don't think it would be a good idea personally for them. If I was a 49ers fan, I would not want them to go make a trade for an expensive vet, because I don't think this is a Super Bowl team. But if they do, then like Trey Hendrickson becomes a guy that maybe they do look at, because they'd lost Nick Bosa. Trey Hendrickson's got 1 year left on his deal, and the Bengals lost their quarterback for the year. So this is probably a lost season. Do they try to get something in return for Trey Hendrickson? I can see the 49ers. They've got the cap space to do it because of all the shenanigans they do there. I think that's something that could happen, or they could try to pry away Kayvon Thibodeau from the Giants. Those are probably the two most likely, but I wouldn't just assume this 49ers are going to stand pat with the guys they've got. TJ West, one of their rookie defensive tackles, also broke a finger and is going to have surgery. They think he might be able to play with a cast on his hand, but he's banged up. I think the good news for the 49ers is that Mykel Williams, the rookie, has been playing pretty well, and Bryce Huff has been a really productive edge rusher for them. So they're not like empty in the edge group, but it seems to me that it would be likely that they would try to add some, maybe another player there, and just have to kind of see how their seat, like right now they're undefeated and in first place. And if you were a 49er, like real supporter, you'd say, hey, they've done that without Brock Purdy for 2 of those games, without George Kittle for 3 of those games, without Brandon Ayuk. And this last game they won, Bosa went out relatively early. So you're like, man, what does it look like when they get Purdy back, who's I think playing at a very high level, and they get Ayuk back, and now they just got Demarcus Robinson, the receiver, back off of suspension. Maybe this team can really be something because their defense is playing excellent football. There's plenty of ways to kind of look at it. Generally speaking, I'm just not super impressed by that 49ers team so far. They do have a relatively easy schedule, so that's going to help. They're probably going to pile up wins, but I'm just not sure. Like the Rams, even though the Rams lost that game to the Eagles, I found myself far more impressed by the Rams, especially their defense in general in that game. The one thing there is like their cornerback situation after they lost Ahkello Witherspoon got exposed. That was the thing I was wondering about. If the Eagles were going to win this, could they get A.J. Brown like in a situation where he was isolated against some of those smaller, weaker receivers or defensive back, excuse me. That was a huge part of how the Eagles won that game. Is like Emmanuel Forbes was in decent coverage, but he just could not deal with the physicality of AJ Brown. So I think the Rams have some weak spots for sure, but the defense was really fast, aggressive. I thought Quentin Lake was amazing in that game. I just think that they look like the best team in the division, and I think it's by a decent margin, at least for now. People can say that that's crazy. That's fine. That's just what I see. I've watched all these teams, almost all of their games to this point, and I think the Rams have a lot of the pieces that you want and a lot of reasons to believe that they're going to continue to be good for a while. I think they're actually running the ball better. Their run blocking is better. I thought Matt Stafford actually had his worst game against the Eagles. I think even though they had 2 blocked field goals, and that was really the reason they lost, I think if Matt Stafford had made a couple more throws than the ones that I think he normally would make, I think the Rams win that game, and it's not even a question. But I mean, if the Rams are playing the 49ers, I'd take the Rams every day. Every day. And if the Rams were playing the Seahawks as of right now, I'd take the Rams. I would pick the Rams to win that game. The Seahawks can do a lot to change that, but it's going to have to come in the form of they have to be able to start getting the run game going. And one of the things that's really kind of an interesting trend that I'm watching is the Seahawks are facing, I think, the highest percentage of 8+ man, like stacked boxes. Even though they're not running well, they're getting a lot of guys in the box on the defense. Well, I think that 2 things are happening there. One is that the Seahawks play a lot of 12 and 21 personnel, so they're a little heavier, and it brings an extra linebacker on the field usually. And so the Seahawks are then getting, because of their formations and their personnel packages, they're getting more guys on defense in the box. At the same time, their passing is benefiting from this, right? They are passing at a highly efficient rate. And you have to wonder if defenses are going to adjust because they're like, we can probably defend your run game with a neutral box. We don't need to have an extra guy in there and have an extra guy in coverage. If that happens, does that mean the Seahawks run game then starts to do better? That's a key thing. Like, so right now you're kind of thinking you have to run teams out of an 8-man box or pass over them. Well, the Seahawks have been passing over them, but it hasn't changed the fact that teams have really been stacking the box. So I think this is going to be a cat and mouse thing that happens for a little while. The Cardinals, I haven't looked into their stack box rate yet. I'll do that as part of my tail of the tape, but they are an excellent defensive front for defending the run. And I don't think they need to stack the box in order to stop the Seahawks run game. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Cardinals drop more guys into coverage and force the Seahawks to prove that they can win this game on the ground. It should be a fascinating watch. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff. My mind is swimming. Mariners are back tonight, and if you didn't get my little warning before or note before, I will most likely do some Mariner shows over the course of the playoffs with that team. I will make sure that they're labeled as Mariners shows so you don't tune in if you're just here for Seahawks stuff. But if you are looking to talk Mariners, we'll have some fun with that over that period of time, and hopefully that team can clinch the division and clinch the bye over the next couple days. That would be fun for sure. Okay, everybody. Last thing, one more thing. If you have not downloaded the Sleeper app, make sure you do. It is a great app for tracking what's going on in all things sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, or anything else. Real-time stats, visualizations, updates on all things going on with your team. Even a real-time chat. You can check in with your pals over there. It is a great app to have. If you use promo code HAWKS, you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. All right, everybody. I will see you tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific time for the Seahawks Collective, and then back here on this channel for Real Hawk Talk at 7 o'clock Pacific time. That will be with Evan Hill and Jeff Simmons before all of us. Jeff's going to head to Arizona as well, and we will reconvene there. Take care and have a great day in between. Take care.